Hello, my name is Abigail and I'm an Information Officer at the Down Syndrome Association. I've worked to support adults who have learning disabilities and especially Down syndrome in several different ways. I started off in residential care and I have run lots of different drama groups and other workshops, and now I co-lead Our Voice, which is the DSA's self-advocacy group. A self-advocacy group is supported to express their views. So for example, when the DSA makes an easy read document or a piece of work for our social media channels, we'll show that to our members and take their positive feedback as well as their constructive criticism so that their opinions inform the work that we do. With those roles in mind, I've put together my 10 top tips for supporting self-advocacy in people who have Down syndrome. Tip number 1, everyone can make choices. People who have Down syndrome communicate in a variety of ways. This might be verbally, or it might be using a sign language like Makaton, or it might be using a picture system, or an electronic device, or they might use different ones of these at different times. So however they are communicating, you can use my tips and your knowledge to help them make choices. Tip number 2, practice makes perfect. Making choices, like many other things, is a skill, and we all start somewhere. The more familiar someone gets with making choices, the easier it will be for them to do. So try to present choices wherever possible when they arise in the day, even if they are small or simple. So hold up 2 t-shirts. Which one would you like to wear today? Put 2 boxes of cereal on the table. Which one would you like to have for breakfast? This person can then build on this over time and make more complex choices as the years go by. Tip number 3, give preparation time. A person might be able to answer a question better if they've had time to think it over. Avoid rushing someone to make an immediate decision if you can, and choose your moment of presenting those options. Having too many choices at once can also be stressful. So for example, tomorrow we're going to talk about whether you would like to go by car to Granny's house or by train to Granny's house. And I'll leave these 2 pictures with you to think about it. And then return to that conversation the next day, and that person will have been mulling over the decision. However, if you think the person you support will be stressed by having all that thinking time, try to start the process off in a more informal way, such as a chat around the topic. For example, we're going to Granny's house and we've travelled by car before and we've travelled by train before. Can you remember the things you liked about travelling by car? Can you remember the things you liked travelling by train? And again, that person will mull over the decision so that when you return to it the next day and ask them which one they would like, hopefully they'll be able to give you an answer. Tip number 4, accessible information. How can you best present the information you need to put across for the decision to be made? Is it the pictures I mentioned earlier, or does there need to be some easy read information or something else? It's less likely to be confusing if one person presents these choices to avoid contradiction from 2 people talking. So if 2 people need to discuss between themselves before presenting those options, that might be a good idea as well. Tip number 5, use unbiased language. We're all different, and even if the person you're supporting is your son or daughter, try not to let influence creep into the way you present your choices. Try to create a culture in which different decisions and differences in choice are celebrated, so that instead of, "You don't like the theatre, do you?" try to say, "Would you like to go to the cinema or the theatre?" Tip number 6, be aware of extenuating factors. This isn't something you can do with every single choice in a person's life, but occasionally it's worth being curious as to why someone is making the choice that they are. So for example, if someone is asked whether they would like to help prepare dinner sometimes, and they say no, it may turn out that's because they've seen dramatic cooking shows where the chef is shouting and the cooks are crying and the kitchen's on fire, and they think, no, I would not like to help with that scenario. And so in this instance, you could say, would you like to help with dinner by chopping the carrots? And that may then result in a different answer because the person is able to think, yes, I know how to chop carrots, and that should involve less stress than the nightmare kitchen scenario. Tip number 7, let the person surprise you. Try not to form your own opinion about which choice the person should make. So for example, I have been at clubs or social events where the person has sat and not looked engaged and not interacted with anyone around them, but then gone home and told their household what a good time they had and how much happened at the event. So even if you can't see yourself what impact something is having on someone, it's best to respect their choice because there may be more going on than you can necessarily see. You can also let someone know that their voice has been heard, even if their choice can't be accommodated right away. So we're all busy with our lives. Someone might ask you for something that you cannot do at that moment. But what you can do is take the time to say, I've listened to what you've chosen, and we can return to that at a later date. Tip number 8, use your prior knowledge about the person you are supporting. This may seem in direct contradiction to the previous tip, but I promise they can both be used in balance. So although you should respect someone's choice, it's also worth remembering that you may have had a conversation about long-term goals. So for example, if someone has said that they would like to help with cooking 3 times a week, but now they are declining every time you're asking whether they'd like to help with cooking, can you find a way to support them with that long-term goal they made? So do they need more time to prepare their answer? Do you need to ask them the day before if they would like to help with dinner tomorrow? Do they not think much of the meals which have been chosen and need more input in what they're going to help cook? Is there another reason that's stopping them from saying yes? So respect choices, but consider conversations that you've had in the past about long-term goals. Tip number 9, ask open questions. If you ask someone who has Down syndrome, does that make sense? They are more likely to say yes. If you ask someone who has Down syndrome, do you have any questions? They are more likely to say, no, I don't have any questions. If you want to really know whether someone has understood you, you have to test their knowledge on it. So you have to say, remind me what the different choices are, and see if they can repeat it back to you. Tip number 10, know when to let it go. Daily life is full of decisions that need to be made. And sometimes these will occur in the moment and be urgent and make people feel stressed. And so learn to recognise when it might do more harm than good to continue asking someone for their decision. You can move on sometimes and reflect on what you would do differently next time to help to support that person. I hope this has been helpful. These are all methods that I use whenever I need to help someone who has Down syndrome get their voice heard or when they need to make a choice. If you've got any questions or would like to talk about this topic further, you can email us or call our helpline and we'll be very happy to talk to you.